Hey everybody, Brian here with the Daily BLP. We are running episode 67 live here on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I got a great little show planned for you guys today, a topic that we haven't covered very much so far in our first 67 episodes, talking about business and life and all that kind of stuff. A little focus today on one of the biggest things that needs to get answered when you are an aspiring entrepreneur or you're a professional looking to kind of go out on your own, start a business. One of the biggest things when I talk to people and that I experience myself as well as my business partners is that, how are we going to fund this thing? How are we going to get the money to do this thing, this idea, this service, this product that we think we can take to market and be a profitable business from? Most of the time we're working a full job, or maybe we lost a job. Maybe we've got a little money on the side. Maybe we don't. Maybe you're lucky enough, like I was years ago, to be introduced to somebody who had put some money aside for just this kind of thing. Their business went into the tank and they wanted to start something new. And that's what we did. But you're not always that fortunate, right? Most of the time it's like, hey, I'm going to hustle on the side, figure this thing out, try to get some sales or a client or two, depending on what I'm doing. And then as time goes on, I'm going to have to make a decision to cut ties with what's taking up most of my time and dedicate things to the real deal that I'm trying to start. It's access to capital it's kind of the number one barrier, I think, for most new company founders or entrepreneurs, right? It's like, man, when all you got is what's in your bank account and there ain't much there, it makes it hard to start. Right. So maybe you're going to be a service provider. Maybe you're going to clean offices. Well, it's just, this blood, sweat, and tears that you can provide. And can you do that in the middle of the night for 3 or 4 hours when you're not working somewhere else, and clean some offices in the middle of the night, get a few hours of sleep, get back up, do your job, do the same thing, do it as much as you can and as quality of a way as you can to maybe build up some seed money to help you last 6 months without that full-time job, something like that, right? Like that's a way to go, but it's not always that easy. You know what I mean? It's like it can be difficult, because you're going to run into obstacles. Things are going to happen with your family or life that you're taking 5 steps forward and all of a sudden you got 10 steps back. And you're like, man, it's like starting over, right? So that happens. But today I'm really looking to share some realistic funding paths and ways forward for folks that really want to be out there starting their own business, doing their own thing. And, maybe we can figure out a little bit in 30 minutes or less, which one might be right for you. So like I was just talking about, the first one is bootstrapping, right? It's figuring it out. Maybe you've created something on a 3D printer and you can create hundreds of them, and maybe you can sell them on an online store, do some e-retail, e-commerce, and you get a few sales and all of a sudden this thing catches off and thousands of people want them, and you got to figure out how to scale quick. Right? Or like I said before, you've got to service something you're really good at and you're tired of being the least paid one in a big company and you're the best one at it. So you're going to go out and do it yourself. That's what that is, right? Another way is debt financing, right? So you're going to work with a lender because you've got good credit and you're going to try to finance some debt to get going, right? Use somebody else's money. Something like that might be often used in the real estate business, right? Like you got some good credit. Maybe you start an LLC, but there's nothing there yet. The more and more you go, you start doing deals, closing sales, generating revenue through that LLC. Now you can maybe take on some debt to buy a few properties as opposed to using your own money and doing things in your own name. You're doing it in the name of the company. Same thing can happen with service industry stuff. Like usually maybe you have an idea for a service or a product and you build a business plan. You start serving that service to businesses and being paid, or producing that product and selling it on a smaller scale. But you've written a business plan. You've shown that it's viable in the market, and you take it to maybe a local economic development corporation that helps small businesses get started, or Small Business Administration works with lending bodies like banks, large and small, to get loans backed by the government to help you get off the ground, help you expand, help you with those kind of things. So that can be a way to either get off the ground or get kind of that oomph you need to go a little bit further. Another one would be equity financing, right? This is your angel investors, your venture capital. This is like high growth, scalable ideas. It's risky though, because when you you do that kind of thing, what you're doing is if you're offering a certain portion of control of your baby to somebody else that has the purse, right? And there's super high expectations. Like, you got to deliver or whatever you got is going to be gone. You know what I mean? And that can be tough. I mean, it's hard enough when you're, on your own and you're going out for the first time outside of a 9 to 5 or outside of that job, and you're going to go out and do this thing on your own. And you think it's a really good idea. You put it out there and, someone backs you to the pool of a couple $1 million. But that's usually not going to happen, I don't think, unless you can already show that your product or service is viable and generating a certain amount of revenue. Do you have employees yet? Is it just you? And, a building that's producing this stuff, it's automated, or did you make software? Is this software replicable? Can you just sell it ad nauseum and, get monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue on those things? And showing that you've got some good profitability there and room to grow because there's demand for it. You just need more capital to meet that demand. That's where I think you're going to really get investors or equity folks interested in what you're doing. But you just got to remember, right? It's like that Shark Tank stuff where it's like, hey, I'll give you $3 million for 30% of a company. Like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want that big growth? Is it worth that 30% of the company that you're going to lose? So what next? So those are a couple options, but there's also creative alternatives to funding that don't really fall under those three typical situations that we just talked about: the bootstrap and doing it yourself, the debt financing through banks or, lending institutions, or let's say equity financing through, private investment companies or people. Creative ways to do this kind of things would be something like, let's say, crowdfunding, right? So, everybody's heard of Kickstarter, and Indiegogo is another one. These kind of growth opportunities are best, I would say, for, consumer products, things that can be created and pre-sold. You can get it into people's hands. You can create excitement, get marketing out there that gets people excited about it, about the crowdfunding. There's this, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I play guitar, right? And I spend way too much money on that stuff, but I've been really good this year, not spending a lot of money on guitars and gear and stuff. But I saw this really cool, like, all-in-one amp touchscreen thing. That's, if you're a musician, you probably see this stuff coming across your feeds on your social medias. But this thing is really cool. I can't remember what it's called though. But the marketing is pretty good. I just got a really bad memory. And I'm like, dude, I wonder how much this thing costs. So I click through a couple things. It's like $1,000 to $2,000 or something. But what I saw pretty quickly after going a couple layers deep into the marketing is that it's still in Kickstarter phase. They're trying to get pre-orders and pre-sales of people that are really interested in this thing. So they generate enough money to build enough of them to get more capital that way. So crowdfunding is definitely a legitimate way to go, but only for certain business types. So I lost my spot. Sorry, guys. Another one, revenue-based financing. So this is kind of where the repayments to the finances are tied to your sales, good for businesses with, let's say, recurring revenue. So this is something that is good for the type of business we have, right? Most of our business outside of the project-based stuff or the consulting things are monthly recurring revenue, like remote scribe services that we do for the medical industry. Monthly recurring revenue, right? Doctor needs a scribe, doctor gets a scribe. There's profit built into that relationship, and they pay us a per month fee to have access to that person a certain amount of time during the month, right? IT managed services, same thing. Bundle a group of services that the client needs that best suits their needs. And then we have a flat rate amount that has profit built into all those services that we sell to the client. The client gets everything that they need. We have a flat rate that we sell them based on what we're supposed to provide for that month. So that's when it comes to revenue-based financing, that's fits that kind of a business model. Another one, grants and competitions. So this would be kind of like local, state, federal business grants. A lot of times grants, these aren't just, it's not just free money things. Again, don't think it's just free money. We're granting this money, not going to come back. Sometimes it does work like that. A lot of times it's a grant, like it's an interest-free loan kind of a thing. Competitions where local economic development corporations, I just went to one of these a couple weeks ago, that they have these big grant opportunities where you come in as a start, like in this case, it was tech startups. They come in, you give a pitch, and then it's like a competition to whoever gives the best pitch, gets the most excitement, they get the deal. Let's see. Another one would be community investment. So this is something like local investment clubs, co-ops, small equity pools, like people in communities get together, pool their money, and they invest in something, and they get a kickback on that like any other investor would too. And the last one on here is, of course, friends and family. But the key with this one is to make sure it has structure. The last thing you want to do, either side of this, is be the family member who gives somebody some money thinking that money's going to be coming back to you. And it's just, there's a lot of different principles on this, but, you should never, I don't believe in co-signing. Like, I don't care if it's my brother, my sister, my friend. It's just putting yourself in a bad position where you're going to be eating somebody's debt, most likely. But, if it's going to be friends and family kind of thing, and you're going to be the one lending money to someone with a business idea, just do it out of love. Don't expect to get anything back. Do it out of love. Think, man, I hope this works. I love you, brother. I love you, sister, mom, dad, cousin, uncle, whatever. But go into it with a clean conscience and heart, knowing that you have no strings attached expectation of getting this thing back. Because if it does and they want to pay you back, great. But if it doesn't, it can tear apart families, right? So, and if you're the one asking money for your family, don't do it frivolously. You know what I mean? Structure it. If you really want it to be real, structure it. Put some teeth behind it that says you're going to pay them back. Because what you don't want to do is, if your idea fails, and I pray that it doesn't, is you don't want it ruining your relationship, your friendship, your relationship with your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your cousins, grandparents, whatever. Okay? So be careful with that one. Now, what about building a story within your organization that makes you a little bit more investor or investment ready, right? So that's a big deal. Being able to tell your company or your idea's story is very important when it comes to whether you're just talking to somebody in an elevator or you're on the plane next to somebody. You never know who's got a connection. You make a friend. What you do might fill a need for one of their friends. They might be willing to pass on your information, your card, whatever. But it matters. It matters just as much as taking really good data and keeping great spreadsheets and having analytics and all that stuff. If you can't dynamically convey the excitement of your entrepreneurial journey, your story, and what you're going to do to make the world better, it's going to be rough. Make sure you include these core elements. So one would be the problem. What's the problem that your idea, your company, your product, your service is solving? That's going to be, because what you are as a business owner is a problem solver, right? The only reason to have a business is to put something out into the world that you can generate revenue on that solves somebody's problem better than it's already being solved, or solves a problem that isn't being solved, right? Understand the solution, be able to articulate it, be able to get excited, be able to transfer this feeling of excitement from inside of you about something you love to somebody else on the other side, so that they kind of pick up and get on fire about it too. You got to be able to understand, explain, articulate the market that you're going to be selling to, right? Here's the problem. Here's my solution. Here's who has the problem the most. Here's who's most willing, ready, and able to pay me to solve that problem. What's the model? What's the process? What's the model of the gadget or widget you're building? What's the model of the service that you're providing? You could be providing, like I said in the beginning, something as simple of an idea as cleaning service. Maybe that's hard work, but as simple as, I'm going to clean your office. But what's the model? What's your model for getting it done? Cheaper, better, faster, and higher quality than anybody else, right? The team? Do you have a team? Is it just you? Have you surrounded yourself with other business individuals that you can at least fall back on for support, mentorship, those kind of thing? Who else have you gotten excited by telling your story and wants to be involved, whether that's financially, operationally, or just from a standpoint of they want to be your cheerleaders and they want to have their names next to yours too. And then the other part of the story, maybe kind of finishes it off, tops it off, the ask. So if you're out there and you're trying to get somebody to invest in what you're doing, what's ultimately the ask, right? How are you going to get that person you're talking to about potentially supporting what you're doing, whether that's crowdfunding 1 million people? What's that ask going to look like on that website? Whether you're sitting down in front of the banker, or whether you're sitting down in front of your family, hopefully that's a last ditch effort thing. But what and how are you going to ask for support, right? All right, moving on to kind of what comes next. Well, there's always going to be opportunities to get off the road and fall in the ditch, fall in the pit of despair when it comes to starting your business. And it's going to happen to everybody. No one's just going to have a super clear path to success in business. You're going to get on this path and you're going to hit the elbow of the road and get pulled off into the ditch a little while, and you're going to get towed back on by a friend or a business associate or some financing, and you're going to get down the path again, and then you're going to take a wrong turn. So what are some of those pitfalls and, let's say, lessons that can be learned in doing this and going out on your own? One thing is taking money from the wrong investor or wrong place is actually worse than not having any money at all. Because if you get the wrong person involved from a money-wise standpoint, a wrong organization, and they have a totally different philosophy, they have a totally different goal in mind. Maybe they've got the whole reason they're trying to get involved is to eat a portion up of your business and change things and kind of come out from underneath you. You just don't know. And it's really hard. That's why you got to be super careful when you're looking at, accepting any type of these investment opportunities that I mentioned when it comes to building your business, finding the capital you need, right? That might not be a person, might not be a shady person, saying, hey, I got some money for you, give me some of your business and whatever, right? It might not be like that. It might be, man, I just really need some operating capital. I need a line of credit, right? Well, tapping into lines of credit too early, it could be a sign that your process that you've built in place isn't profitable, right? Long term. Things might look good now. You're closing some deals. You're getting good MRR, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, your $50,000 MRR. But now you need more people and you need more tools and you need a place to put your people and you need to give them things to work with and you need to pay taxes and you need to provide a health insurance plan and all these kind of things that you have to do. And then all of a sudden you're spending $60,000 a month and only pulling in 50. And if I can just get some more business, that'll solve everything. It'll solve everything because if I could just get some more business, if I had $100,000 MRR, then this $60,000 expense would be a cakewalk. But that's not what's going to happen, because if you got to 50 under a process of supporting that 50 of income with 60 expense, you're going to get to 100 and you're going to have $120,000 of expense unless you figure it out sooner or later. That's what's going to happen. So you could take a line of credit. Maybe you qualify at $50,000 MRR. You've been in business a year or so. You take that $100,000 line of credit. Thank gosh, now I can pay everybody's checks. I can pay my bills. And then those checks will roll in next month. I'll get caught up, pay the line of credit off. But every time you do that, you fall a little bit further behind before you know the line of credit is full because you're making a profit, right? You're counting on business growth to give you extra money, and that could get you by if you have a couple good months. But what happens, as it inevitably does, when things go dry for a couple months, right? If you're operating at, 240 and you're only bringing in 200, you're doing that because something is broken in the process that got you to the 200 income to support that with all the people, all the tools, all the everything that goes into doing that, but it's costing you way more. So you're not going to solve that problem by bringing in more business because you haven't solved your mindset problem that got you there in the first place, right? So a lot of the times that just happens because of quick growth. A couple of years go by really fast. All of a sudden you're going from zero money to $3 million a year or $6 million a year. And you're just like slamming people into positions, training them, getting them going and keeping everybody happy, running around, keeping your customers happy, keeping your employees happy, making some more money, growing, lose a couple clients, grow even more. And you haven't had time to really strategize and plan and put everything into neat little rows so you can really pinpoint where your profitability is. Like one month, oh yeah, we're profitable this month. And we're profitable next month. We're profitable the next month. And then all of a sudden, 6 months down the road, you haven't been paying attention because every month's been profitable. It must still be. All of a sudden, why is the bank account empty? You know what I mean? So anyway, whether it's lines of credit, whether it's shady people, whether it's, be careful. When you commit to taking money with strings attached, you have to deliver on whatever the results are expected to be. So anyway, all right. Another one would be overestimating how much money you actually need, or in some cases, maybe underestimating how much money you need, right? So what happens is, building a business plan before you get started, you can be conservative or very liberal with your plans. You can be overly optimistic. I'm going to make gazillions, so I need gazillions to get going, right? Or, I'm going to make a little bit. I'm just going to make a little bit, so I'm only going to ask for a little bit. You get that little bit, and then it's not enough. And it either bogs you down or you have stoppages because it's not enough to fully operate, right? And if you get too much and you spend too much, and what your income after that's all gone doesn't allow you to make some money and pay back what you owe, you're in trouble too. Another one would be forgetting the cost of capital. So the idea is that every funding opportunity has a price. I was kind of talking about this before, whether it's equity in your business, a part ownership of your business, interest on whatever capital you accept, right? So if you accept 100,000 line of credit and you're using 35 of that, if you can't pay that by the end of that month, there's going to be interest. You are going to start servicing the interest on your debt. So a part of your profit will be eaten up by that interest. And that's not in your best interest. It's in the organization that lent you the money's interest. They kind of want that to happen. That's how they're making money. So expectations, results can be a big one too, that if you can't meet expectations, bad things can turn around happening as well. So I kind of rushed through all this because we only have so much time. I know you only have so much time, and we will, over the course of the next few weeks and months, cover more of this in greater detail. But my hope today with this episode was to give you a little understanding of what kind of opportunities are out there. And I'm by no means an expert. I'm learning somewhat as I go as well. But, I've got years of experience. Most of my experience is bootstrapping with my business partners. Outside of lines of credit, we've taken, that's only been recent within the last couple of years that we leverage a line of credit, because the more employees they have, you tend to need those operational funds. But we've mostly bootstrapped. We've mostly been a debt-free company from the start. We never went into any debt to get started, and we never went into any debt to grow. And we're exploring things, though. One of the things we're exploring right now is small business administration backed loans. So I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. There are loans that if you qualify, you can get loans from your bank, whether it's a smaller local bank or a larger bank, that are strictly for certain types of business related outcomes, like, acquiring other businesses is a vector. Building a building because you need more warehouse space or you need more office space and there's nothing available to rent. You don't want to do that. You need to purchase large equipment to build exponentially more of whatever product you're successfully selling, right? There's things out there. There's those type of loans, and they're backed by the SBA. The Small Business Administration doesn't loan money. They just, because they're a government agency, they have funds that can back the loans up to a certain percentage and guarantee them for the banks. So the bank loans aren't as risky on businesses. So what that does is it incentivizes banks to give money at better rates, because the chances of them losing out and not getting paid back that money are very low because they're backed by the U.S. government, right? It's kind of like that FDIC things in people's banks accounts is backed by the FDIC. So that's what that is. That's something we're exploring now because we're getting into government contracting. And if we do end up getting a large government contract that requires us to, scale our technician base by 5x in a short period of time, we're going to have to do that way before we get any money for the contract, whether we're a subcontractor or whether we're a prime contractor. We're going to have to do everything and spend all the money up front. We don't just get paid and then we do all those things. So that's one of the things we're exploring, whether it's doing it for that or looking at mergers and acquisitions of smaller companies to help us grow, in addition to when we grow through sales and marketing and things like that. So we're definitely in the world of looking into all this stuff. So a couple closing kind of takeaways from all this. There's no singular right way to get the right type of funding that works for everybody. The path that you go on really depends on your business, the market that you're selling in, the product or type of service that you're providing, and your amount of comfort with putting yourself, in harm's way that way. You're always putting yourself in harm's way every time when you'd wake up in the morning when you're in business for yourself. I ask, people I interview to be employees. I talk to people all the time, just try to get in their headspace about things. And I always ask, I say, especially I'm mostly hiring salespeople, right? It's like, what are you more concerned about? a secure floor or a unlimited ceiling, like no ceiling or a secure floor? And the answer to that, almost everybody says no ceiling once they get it. Like sometimes they just look at me kind of funny, like, what do you mean? And I have to explain to them a secure floor means you're always going to get a paycheck. You got a salary. It's always going to make you comfortable, right? An unlimited ceiling means your salary might not, it's going to feed you. It's going to keep the lights on, but your potential to earn is uncapped based on your performance. You'll never get to ask for a raise, but you give yourself a raise every time you get results. So, and what people say is they'll say, oh, the ceiling, because it's unlimited results sounds intoxicating, right? But that's not always the truth. The truth comes in when someone gets to work and they're not motivated. So anyway, other things too is I just want to encourage everyone to do their own research, right? Don't just listen to me and say, oh, I'm going to do this kind of funny. This is kind of funny. Do your research, hire like real professionals, or sit down and at least consult with them. Talk to people that have done this. One of the biggest ways I always tell people, and I was told this years ago, is, you can go to class, you can go to school to learn this, that, or the other thing, but figure out what you want to do. Find someone who's done it successfully. Ask them what they did. Do it, right? If it's really what you want, no matter what the personal cost, do it, right? Again, find the person that's done it successfully, not just someone who's went to school for it and now they're teaching it, which is typically the case. Find someone who's done it successfully. Don't expect them to just give you their time, energy, effort. Like, you're going to have to earn some trust. Find someone who's done it. Ask them how they did it. Show interest. A lot of successful people love it when people are hungry to learn about how they did it, right? People with real fruit on the tree have no problem sharing how they got there, because here's what they know. If they're lucky, 5% of the people that they tell all the details to would actually be willing to do the hard work, sacrifice, blood, sweat, tears, all that fun stuff to do the same thing. They know that most people will never be willing to do what they did to get where they are. So they generally freely tell, hey, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. I stayed up every night until midnight. I got up every day at 4:30. I never breathed. I never ate. I never drank. I walked uphill both ways. Whatever. But most people, it's too painful to do those things, and people are too comfortable in their current situation to get out of that pain. It's the people that are in so much kind of either mental anguish or physical or metaphorical anguish. They're just not happy with what they're doing. The pain of changing is not as bad as staying the same. That's the only time that they'll jump after that kind of stuff. So just find the person that's done it. Ask them how they did it. Do what they did. That's really the way it works. I wrote down in here that I was going to tease tomorrow, but it's hard to commit to what I'm going to do tomorrow because tomorrow is a new day and things come up. So I will commit. There will be a show tomorrow. I might extrapolate on these kind of things. Not quite sure about that, but we're definitely going to be having a show. I just don't know exactly yet what that's going to be. But in any case, today was super fun. Hopefully you guys had a good time. I definitely think that we could all benefit from looking a little bit deeper into some of the things I talked about, especially if you're serious on going out on your own. Hey, quick item. If you have ideas or you think you want to be on the show and sit down across the table from me or hop on via the video hotline here and be a part of one of our shows, you think you got something to contribute, send me an email. Send us an email to blp@panaceasolutionsllc.com. I'll watch it, I'll read it, and I'll reach back out to you and see if they can make something happen. Otherwise, this has been the live show for the Daily BLP. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget to look for our monthly show as well. There's a link right here, the Business Line podcast. We do what I call the big show once a month. One of ours that we just recorded here a week or so ago will be coming out in the next week or two. That's going to be an exciting one. But, it's been fun. Again, thanks, everybody, for joining us for episode 67 of the Daily BLP. It's been a great time. We will talk to you guys later.